Hello and welcome to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Ron Caroni, and this week I'm joined by investor Randall Hoeber. Randall is based out of Yorkton and joins us today to talk about the 6 reasons why you should live there. Hope you enjoy.
You're listening to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, where we chat with real estate experts from across the province to learn what's happening in the real estate market. Here's your host, Ron Caroni.
Good morning, Randall. How's it going today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Ron. How are you?
Really good. Randall, thanks so much for joining us today on the podcast, and really looking forward to getting into all things Yorkton. Before we do, I'd really like to hear a little bit about your background and kind of your investing and your time in Yorkton.
Sure. Well, my background primarily is in corrections. I've been working in adult and youth corrections for almost 30 years. Started in Saskatoon, and then I came out to Yorkton, and I've been here for about over 20 years working in corrections. It's in a prison, like jail type of environment.
Sure. And then you're also an investor, correct, right, Randall?
That's correct. Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say I watched as a friend of mine invested in real estate for quite a few years. And then I finally decided, well, why not me? So 2016, we acquired our first property, and which is actually down in the United States. And then 2019, we started buying properties locally.
Very cool. And Randall, I guess you would be the perfect example of it's never too late to start, because not to give too much information, but you weren't the youngest guy then in 2016. You weren't 20 or 30. What at that age you were said, like, I need to get into this?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely a late bloomer. I came to the game kind of late, kind of more in the fourth quarter, whatever. But that's never too late to get started. They always say, what's the best time to invest in real estate? Yesterday, but the second best time is today.
That's awesome.
And so I watched a friend of mine do it for many years. And like I say, I just asked myself one day, well, why not me? Like, I can keep doing the 9 to 5 grind. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad 15 years ago, and I never took action. And, then I finally took action, and, now we've got a fairly decent, robust 13 doors and looking to expand to multifamily and, transition from one career to another career.
That's fantastic. Randall, are some of those rental properties in Yorkton?
We have 3 buildings in Yorkton. We have one in a small town north of Yorkton called Kenora, and we have another one in a small town west of Yorkton called Springside. And then we have one down south.
Awesome. And we're really looking to get a little bit more information on Yorkton and talk about why it's a great place to live, work, invest, and potentially have a family there. So Randall, let's get into this. We have 6 things that we're going to touch on, the reason that Yorkton is a great place. So let's kick it off with number 1. What comes in on the list of number 1 of why Yorkton's a great place?
For number 1 for me is population. It's a growing community. It's a small, it's the 6th largest city in Saskatchewan. So it's not a large city in comparison to Saskatoon and Regina. We're kind of like neck and neck with Swift Current.
What would that population be, Randall?
2017 census, it was just under 20,000. So now I would speculate we're above 20,000. But really, if you consider the number of people who don't live in Yorkton but work in Yorkton and or do business in Yorkton, we'd be pushing 30,000.
Number 2 on the list, Randall, what do we have?
Number 2 on the list is job growth. Thanks for that.
And that kind of ties perfectly in with population. If you have job growth, you're likely going to get some things. What are some of the industries in Yorkton that allow the growth of jobs?
Well, the 2 primary industries that drive the economy in Yorkton is agriculture and manufacturing. And we're the number 1 food processing center in East Central Saskatchewan. And there's 2 very large canola crushing plants, Louis Dreyfus Commodities and Richardson International. And they're primarily dealing with all the canola. And so the canola oil and canola meal. And as you know, with COVID, there's been a food shortage worldwide, with some of the food supply chain challenges. And demand and the capacity of these 2 plants has just been thriving. In fact, Richardson's actually doubling their capacity.
That's amazing. And that's one of those industries that's not really just going to go away on you either, right? Canola's been around for decades. It's going to be around for decades afterwards. So, a
Yeah,
very solid, stable industry on that side. So, a wonderful job creator that has that stable level for you as well.
that's right. And when with the doubling of the capacity of Richardson, we're going to see an increase in demand for the laborers to come into the city to take care of the expansion, and there are many places to live too. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic.
Wonderful. Number three, Randall, what do we have?
Number three, we have affordability. So not many people probably know that, if they're not familiar with Yorkton, the price to acquire properties in Yorkton is going to be less than what you would find in Saskatoon or Regina, Prince Albert, Moose Jaw, simply because it's a smaller community. So with that said, if someone wanting to move into, set their roots in Yorkton, they could find fairly comfortable and decent 3 bedroom, 2 bath, or 4 bedroom, 2 bath properties for less than what they would pay in the other areas of the province.
Could you give us an idea, dollar wise, Randall, a kind of a range of what you would pay for a single family home?
Well, it's gonna vary depending upon the neighborhood that people are looking to reside in. If you're living in the core of the city, you're gonna be paying less. If you're on the outer neighborhoods, you're gonna be paying more. So it kind of depends on where someone is looking to reside. 450,000, 350,000, 200,000. There's properties in Yorkton you can acquire for $50,000. So it all kind of depends upon your interest. And if you're a real estate investor, to acquire a property for 50,000, you're going to absolutely crush the 1% rule, the rent to value, which is a real estate metric.
Right. Randall, for anyone who doesn't know, can you talk about the 1% rule quickly and what that means?
Sure, yeah. The 1% rule is a way of kind of gauging the value of a property that you're looking to acquire for rental purposes. So if you want, if rent in, say the average rent is $1,000 for a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom house, or a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom house, and you acquire that property for $100,000, then you're getting 1% rent to the value of the property. But if you can acquire that property for less than 100,000, but still get that $100 rent, or that $1,000 rent, you're going to exceed the 1% rule. So using the example of we acquired a property actually for 50,000 in late 2019, and we were renting it at 950. So we were almost getting 2 times the rent to value metric that we use as one of our metrics when we're gauging whether it's a property worth pursuing or not.
Very cool. And as Yorkton continues to grow, you'll probably implement the 1% rule more and more. And I think the next point on number four ties directly into that.
That's right. Is the in-migration. There's a significant. There's actually currently what I would consider to be a shortage of quality housing in Yorkton, and that's primarily because despite the fact of COVID, causing disruptions all over the place, there's still people looking for places to rent in Yorkton. But there's a challenge in finding affordable rents or even sufficient rents to meet the demand. So consequently, you can get premium rents most times. And with an increase in migration, people coming to Yorkton for jobs or for school or for a combination of both, they need a place to stay.
Sure.
And so with that, there's going to be an increase of more people coming in, but not the inventory to meet the demand for rents. So as a real estate investor, the classic opportunity to get the property, buy it, renovate it, put new tenants into it, refinance it if you want to get some of the cash back, and get good quality cash flow.
So we've touched on affordability, the market, the job growth, and if people are living in Yorkton, coming in at number five, what do we have for them to enjoy?
Parks and green space. I love it. There's a lot of parks in the city. There's some areas, some green spaces that there's contracts in place that they will never ever develop. So it'll always stay as a green space with good walking tracks and running trails throughout the city. Now the city really prides itself on making that available for the residents and the citizens to have the biking trails and running trails. I love to run. I love to exercise, so I love the outdoor space. But there's frisbee golf, there's golf courses nearby, there's outdoor splash parks, lots of amenities for the people coming into town that they may not know if they don't do the research or find the discoveries of these things. And there's a great nature preserve as well, just within the city limits. So if somebody wants to go for a walk and see all the purple martin tree houses in the one area, or bird houses in the one area of the city, like it's beautiful.
That's wonderful, Randall. And I think it's probably one of Saskatchewan's hidden gems is the amount of great golf courses that we have, that the only people who know about it are people who live in Saskatchewan.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Randall, coming in at number 6, what do we have?
Well, community spirit. And I mean, community spirit is in all communities, but when you're in a smaller community, it just seems that the same group of people are always going to the same, or you can find them all over the place. So, there's the Rhythm and Ribs Festival prior to COVID was a very popular event. And, there's car shows, there's antique car shows, there's a racetrack, chariot races, and people would show up, pay their fees, and you would just find it always seems the same group of people would be out at the various events. So guarantee if I go to one of those events, I'm going to run into at least one person, if not multiple people that I know, and I'll see them at the next event and the next event. A lot of support for community initiatives and fundraisers.
And that's the great thing about living in a smaller city, and that you do get to know the people who are going to different events and your neighbors. And I think that does help to kind of create that close-knit community where, anywhere you go in Saskatchewan, whether it be a Melfort or a Humboldt, if you spend any amount of time there, you find you get to know just about everybody. And that does create tight bonds within those communities.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Randall, we've capped off the 6 here. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Well, it's a great place to raise a family. It's a safe community. It's easy to get around. The schools are awesome. The high schools are strong. The community, like I say, the community spirit. No shortage of formal and informal activities for children to engage in.
Wonderful.
And yeah, buses are solid. So it's just a overall great place to raise a family.
I really appreciate you breaking this down for you, Randall. And even though I'm from Saskatchewan, Yorkton is not necessarily a place that I've ever spent a lot of time in. So it's really good to hear all of these things and kind of learn a little bit more of that. So I really appreciate your perspective on this. A question I ask everyone who comes on the podcast, Randall, if you could go back in time to a younger version of yourself, what advice would you give yourself and why?
Number 1, buy real estate. Don't wait until you're 46 years old to buy your first rental property. Buy real estate, get started while you're young, grow your network, and just go ahead and crush it after that.
So I'm a young guy here. I'm sitting here. I say, Randall, why would I ever consider buying a rental property? That sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. You just got to put your mind to it. And there's a saying, a lot of people want to focus on how do they make something happen, but really what they need to ask is why do they want it? Because once you know why you want it, you'll figure out how to make it happen one way or another. You'll meet somebody, you'll discover the secret, which isn't really a secret. You'll discover the secret of real estate investing, which there's really no secret. It's just not rocket science. It's once you kind of put one foot ahead of the next foot and the next foot, it'll all come together. And
Wonderful.
You meet people along the way that are like-minded, and that's when things accelerate.
Randall, your investing company is Relied Enterprises. If folks wanted to get in contact with you, if they had any questions for you about Yorkton and wanting to learn a little bit more about the city, how could they get in contact with you?
Well, the easiest thing would be to contact me directly on Facebook. And whether they want to send me a direct message, you can also reach me at email, which is info, I-N-F-O, at Ralex Enterprises, R-A-L-E-X Enterprises, info at ralexenterprises.com. So email, or you can just reach out to me directly on Facebook.
Wonderful.
I'd love to have a chat with anybody about real estate investing, whether it's in Yorkton or just anywhere else. It's a very, very strong passion of mine.
That's fantastic. Randall, thank you so much for coming on this morning and breaking down Yorkton for us. I really appreciate your insights, and best of luck with your investing career as you kind of continue on.
Yes, thank you very much, Ron. Thanks for the time to speak to you.
Thanks again to Randall for coming on the program today. Really appreciate his information on the beautiful city that is Yorkton. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like and subscribe button. Until next week, I'm Ron Caroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional.
This has been the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. If you like this episode, find more information and episodes on our Facebook and YouTube pages. If you'd like to be a guest or have a conversation you'd like to learn more about, let us know by messaging the show on Facebook. Thanks for listening.